It's not Shedeur Sanders. It's not Dillon Gabriel. You're the problem. Ownership. Yep. Ownership is the problem. And this is going to continue as long as Jimmy Haslam doesn't wake up and change, because he continues to make these bad decisions and continues because he very clearly put his team, his front office, his general manager, his head coach into a tough spot. We all saw the draft room video when they drafted Shedeur Sanders. Nobody was hiding how they felt. Nobody. Mm-hmm. The owner has come out and said, hey, this is what I wanted to have happen. So you've got friction already, and we knew that was going to... And oh, by the way, that's not even me mentioning that they've got a $150 million quarterback who's not playing football, Deshaun Watson, that we've all forgotten about. This is all the Browns' fault. I don't blame Shedeur. I don't blame Dillon Gabriel. I don't blame Stefanski. I don't even blame Andrew Berry. I blame Jimmy Haslam. This is an ownership problem because this has been a problem for 30 years. And the consistent factor is one thing: ownership. Not coaches, not GMs, not players, ownership. And at some point, you got to start doing things differently, because I don't want to see another kid ruined.
Well, I'm here to tell you, Jimmy Haslam won the line when he said these next 120 days is about to be lit. And I'm telling you right now, because one Browns insider went on record and said that they are ready. Speaking about the Browns coaching staff is ready to be, develop Shedeur Sanders, name him QB1, and end all of this bullshit crap that is coming out of the Cleveland media.
Jimmy Haslam just put the entire Cleveland Browns organization on a 120-day clock. And the message behind those words is more terrifying for Browns coaches than anything that's been said publicly about this franchise in years. Because here's what nobody is connecting right now. Haslam made that statement in the exact same window that a Browns insider went on record confirming that Todd Monken's coaching staff is ready to name Shedeur Sanders QB1 and shut down every single false narrative that Cleveland media has been pushing for months. The lies about Monken not believing in Shedeur, the Watson rumors, the Fernando Mendoza trade talk, all of it done. And now an analyst from 92 The Fan just dropped the most explosive quarterback evaluation you'll hear all offseason, saying flat out that no quarterback in the entire 2025 draft class, not even Mendoza, who's projected #1 overall, grades higher than what Cleveland already has on their roster. So when Haslam says these next 120 days are about to be lit, you better believe every coach, every executive, and every person pushing the anti-Shedeur narrative in that building heard that warning loud and clear. Stay locked in, because every layer of this story is wilder than the one before it.
I think Shedeur is the guy. It's always fascinating when, we said this before, where if guys had Shedeur Sanders as QB1 or QB2 or a top 40 quote-unquote talent all throughout 2024 up until April 30th, 2025, then what changed just because he went in the 5th round? So he is still the talent that you thought he was, and it's cool that he got out there and got those starts in 7 games, 7 weeks of first team.
All right, let's build this from the ground up, because the full context is what makes Haslam's 120-day warning so significant. And I promise you, once you see all the pieces laid out together, you're going to understand exactly why that clock is ticking and exactly who it's ticking loudest for. Let's start with the noise, because for the past couple of days before this story broke, the Cleveland media had been running a very specific and very coordinated feeling narrative. Todd Monken allegedly isn't convinced Shedeur Sanders is the guy. Deshaun Watson is being considered. There's Fernando Mendoza trade talk floating around. Malik Willis news dropping every other hour. The whole Cleveland media machine was churning out story after story designed to create doubt, to plant seeds in the minds of Browns fans and the broader NFL audience that Shedeur Sanders might not be long for Cleveland after all. And then, like a thunderclap cutting through all of that noise, a Browns insider went on record, not off the record, not anonymously through 3 layers of protection, on record, telling the world that the Browns coaching staff is ready to develop Shedeur Sanders, ready to name him QB1, ready to end every single piece of fabricated drama that the Cleveland media has been manufacturing and serving up like it's factual reporting. That's the context around Haslam's 120-day warning. He didn't make that statement in a vacuum. He made it while his own organization was being flooded with false narratives about his quarterback. And when the owner of an NFL franchise tells you these next 120 days are about to be lit, that's not hype talk. That's a warning shot directed at everyone inside that building who hasn't gotten the message yet about where this franchise is heading and who is leading it there. Now here's where the 92 The Fan interview comes in, and this is the part that should end every single debate about Shedeur Sanders' future in Cleveland, because the analyst who sat down for this conversation didn't just defend Shedeur, he dismantled the entire anti-Shedeur argument piece by piece with the kind of calm, specific, data-backed evaluation that you simply cannot dismiss as fan loyalty or emotional bias. The first thing he did was go straight at the record, 3-4. That's what Shedeur Sanders' official record was in 7 starts. And on the surface, if you're a casual observer, 3-4 sounds like a disappointment, sounds like a young quarterback who struggled, sounds like evidence that maybe the concerns about him were valid all along. But here's what the analyst said, and I need you to hear this clearly. They should have been 5-2. 5-2. He goes directly to the Bills game, goes directly to the Titans game. 2 results that with any kind of competent game management around Shedeur, any kind of coaching that was actually trying to win rather than trying to manage an outcome, should have gone the other way.
There is not. And not even Mendoza. I have a higher grade on Shedeur than I did on anybody in this draft class. And remember, people just here's the funny thing about this draft class at the quarterback position. April 30th, 2025, everyone was saying, Garrett Nussmeier, K. Klubnik, Carson Beck, Arch Manning, and a litany of others. And now everybody's speaking Spanish. Nobody mentioned Mendoza until...
But wait. Because the analyst doesn't stop at the record. He goes even deeper into the context of what Shedeur was actually operating in during those 7 starts. And this part of the evaluation is crucial because it reframes everything. The analyst said, and I want you to visualize this, that there were moments watching the Browns where he genuinely couldn't tell if he was watching an NFL team or the Boston Dragons. That's not a joke. That's a veteran football evaluator describing an injury-ravaged, depth-depleted, functionally broken roster that Shedeur Sanders was being asked to lead, an NFL Europe roster, the analyst called it. Guys who had no business being on an active NFL roster were suiting up around Shedeur because that's how badly the depth situation had deteriorated. And he still went out there and competed. He still showed the mental toughness and the poise that makes evaluators believe in him. He still won games against legitimate AFC North competition with a roster that was falling apart around him in real time. That's not a quarterback who's struggling. That's a quarterback who's surviving circumstances that would break most people and finding ways to produce anyway. Now, let's talk about Fernando Mendoza for a second, because this is where the conversation gets really interesting and where the double standard that's been following Shedeur Sanders his entire career gets exposed one more time for everyone to see. Mendoza is projected to go number 1 overall. The entire NFL world has essentially coronated this man before he's played a single professional snap, and the analyst from 92 The Fan, a respected voice with a platform in the Cleveland market, came out and said something that should be making headlines everywhere, but somehow isn't getting the attention it deserves. He said Mendoza compares, in his evaluation, to a slightly more athletic version of Jared Goff. And then he went further. He said in his view, Mendoza is more of a second-round talent. Second round, the guy who's about to go number 1 overall. Now look, that doesn't mean Mendoza can't be a solid NFL starter. Jared Goff is a Super Bowl quarterback. There's no shame in that comparison. But the analyst's point is about value, about accuracy of evaluation, about whether the hype around Mendoza is proportional to what the tape actually shows. And his conclusion is that you're going to need to put a lot around Mendoza for him to replicate in the NFL what he did at Indiana. Which, again, that's fine. That's what franchises are supposed to do for their quarterbacks. But here's the hypocrisy that the source highlights, and the host absolutely nails this. Shedeur Sanders didn't throw at the combine last year. In the Cleveland media, the NFL media, the talking heads everywhere crucified him for it. Made it a character issue, made it a confidence issue, made it a story about whether he was hiding something or afraid of scrutiny. Fernando Mendoza is not throwing at the combine this year. He's the projected #1 overall pick. And the reaction? Crickets. Or worse, sympathetic understanding. Well, he's already going #1, so there's nothing to gain. You can't develop chemistry with guys you just met. These are completely valid reasons, but they're the exact same reasons Shedeur gave last year for not throwing. Word for word, logic for logic, and nobody gave him the same grace. The analyst says it directly. Mendoza gives great interviews, so of course he gets the benefit of the doubt. And that line right there tells you everything you need to know about why Shedeur Sanders has been fighting uphill since the moment his name started appearing in draft conversations. It's not about the football, it's about the narrative. And the narrative has always been built around someone else's comfort level with who Shedeur Sanders is, not what the tape says he can do.
See, everybody be forgetting the fact of the matter is Shedeur Sanders really was supposed to win more games than what he actually won. Kevin Stefanski sabotaged a lot of those games. Everybody forgetting that whole aspect of it. Had Kevin Stefanski not sabotaged some of those games, we're thinking a totally different story. Shedeur Sanders would have had quite essentially only lost 2 out of the 7 games he started in. Gotta keep it a buck, bruh.
So let's come back to Haslam's 120-day warning one more time and put a bow on what it actually means in this full context. You have an owner who has watched his franchise get repeatedly destabilized by bad quarterback decisions. You have a new head coach in Todd Monken who said failure isn't even in his vocabulary. You have a Browns insider going on record that the coaching staff is aligned and ready to commit to Shedeur as QB1. You have one of the most respected analysts in the Cleveland market saying flat out that no quarterback in the entire 2025 draft class grades higher than what Cleveland already has on their roster. And you have a 5-2 true record being hidden behind a manipulated 3-4 official record because of sabotage that the whole NFL world is finally starting to acknowledge. That 120 days isn't just a hype statement from an owner who's excited about his offseason. That 120 days is a deadline, a line in the sand, a message to every person in that organization who has been dragging their feet on committing to Shedeur Sanders that the time for hedging and narrative games is over. Build around the quarterback, protect the quarterback, give the quarterback a full offseason of first-team reps and a real supporting cast, and stop manufacturing doubt where there doesn't need to be any. The analyst said it perfectly. If you give Shedeur a full offseason as the guy, with the starters healthy around him, with more offensive talent added to the roster, the Browns would be cooking with gas. That's not blind optimism. That's a football evaluation from someone who watched every snap and concluded that the talent was never the issue. The circumstances were the issue. And now, with Stefanski gone and Monken in charge and the owner putting the whole building on a clock, the circumstances are finally changing. Shedeur Sanders survived the sabotage. He survived the NFL Europe roster. He survived the wristband plays and the pull that critical moments decisions and the media narrative machine that has been trying to write his Cleveland story for him since before he even arrived. He survived all of it, and now he's walking into a 120-day window where the owner, the coaching staff, and the most credible voices in the Cleveland market are all saying the same thing. He's the guy. Build around him, and let's see what he actually does when nobody's trying to stop him from succeeding. So here's what I need from you in the comments right now. Real talk, no cap. Now that you know Shedeur's true record should have been 5-2 instead of 3-4, and now that a respected Cleveland analyst is saying no quarterback in the entire 2025 draft class grades higher than Shedeur, what does Todd Monken's full commitment to Shedeur as QB1 mean for Cleveland's ceiling in 2026? And do you think Haslam's 120-day warning is enough to silence the people inside that building who have been quietly working against Shedeur since day one? Drop your most honest take below, and I'm reading every single comment, and this conversation is going to be everything. The 120-day clock is running. The insider has spoken. The analyst has spoken. And Haslam's warning has been delivered to every person in that Cleveland building who thought they could keep running the anti-Shedeur playbook without consequences. The lies are over. The narratives are done. And Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback who survived everything Cleveland threw at him and still found ways to win, is walking into the most important offseason of his career with his coaching staff finally, fully, completely in his corner. If you want to stay locked in on every Browns update, every Shedeur development, and every moment this 120-day window produces, hit that subscribe button right now, because the next chapter of this story is going to be must-watch television from start to finish.